Greetings dear children. In this video we will be learning Haunted Houses by H W Longfellow. Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, one of America's iconic poets of the 19th century, reminded Americans of their roots through his writings. He is remembered for the myths and classic legends that he created from American historical events and materials such as the Song of Hiawatha and Paul Revere's Ride. The phantoms in Longfellow's poem Haunted Houses are neither mischievous poltergeists nor angry spirits who seek to harm. They are simply the souls of the dear departed who linger in our memories and therefore in our lives and homes. They seem to share our living spaces and silently observe, perhaps even join in our daily activities at the table, at the fireside. They float, they wave, they glide about us, and we feel somehow that they are connected to us for all time. The poem's regular rhythm and rhyming structure and its gentle tone evoke a feeling of peace and solace, a sense of security that is not often associated with the notion of haunting. Longfellow's assertion that all houses are haunted houses is comforting rather than menacing, an acknowledgement that our loved ones, although no longer with us, will continue to walk among us as long as they live in our memories. Let's look at the setting of the poem. Haunted houses describes the general setting of every house, which is visited by the ghost or spirits of the previous occupants. The poem is set in such a way that it appears to the readers that they are seeing these spirits enter through the open doors without making any noise. They can be seen everywhere in the house. For example, at the door, on the stairs, along the passage, at the dining table, and by the fireside. The spirits are described as just visiting the house, going about on their errands, but do not do what conventionally ghosts are believed to do. They do not make any noise, they do not move things around, and they do not harm anyone. They are as silent as pictures on the walls. Let's begin the poem. All houses wherein men have lived and died are haunted houses. Through the open doors, the harmless phantoms on their errands glide with feet that make no sound upon the floors. Haunted houses does not literally mean haunted in a scary way. Rather, haunted here in this poem is used in a tender and harmless manner. Just as the homes we inhabit are full of lively souls, the houses are also surrounded by the spirits who do not have their physical bodies. These wandering supernatural beings evoke a sense of belonging as they continue to be present. In the first stanza, the speaker begins with a very simple but a surprising statement. What is that surprising statement? The first line is the answer. All houses wherein men have lived and died are haunted houses. What kind of houses are these? Haunted houses. Why are these houses called as haunted houses? Because they are inhabited by the spirits of the earlier inhabitants of the house who have died long ago. Now we get answer for another question. How do they enter the house? Through the open doors, the harmless phantoms on their errands glide with feet that make no sound upon the floors. Through this line, the poet has dispelled the conventional image of ghost by describing or calling them as harmless phantoms. So who are the harmless phantoms? The harmless phantoms are the spirits of the people who had once lived in these houses and have died a long time ago. How are these phantoms different from our known or usual image of the phantoms? Unlike the usual image or the conventional image of the phantoms, these phantoms are harmless because they are neither mischievous nor angry. They do not make loud noise. They do not throw objects in the house. They do not harm the occupants of the house. That's why these phantoms or ghost or spirit are referred to as harmless phantoms. On their errands glide, the poet tells us that these harmless phantoms are busy with their errands, means their duties or the activities. They are busy with their errands and move purposefully around the house as they did when they were living, and they come and go without making any noise, without disturbing the present occupants of the house. So all houses wherein men have lived and died referred to as haunted houses. How do they enter the house? Through the open doors. These harmless phantoms on their errands glide with feet that make no sound upon the floors. So the expected 3 questions. What kind of houses? Why are these houses called haunted houses? Who are the harmless phantoms? Why are they referred to as harmless phantoms? How are these phantoms different from the usual or conventional image of phantoms? Then how do they enter the house? Through the open doors with feet that make no sound upon the floor. So the poet begins the poem with a simple but a surprising statement. The first line, that is a surprising statement, simple statement. All the houses in which men have lived and died are haunted. That means these houses are visited by the ghost or spirit of the earlier occupants. The poet described or called them as harmless phantoms. With that description, the poet has dispelled the conventional image of ghost. There we should know what is our conventional image of ghost. That is, they are harmful, they make sound, they disturb us, they trouble us. But here the poet has dispelled the conventional image of ghost by calling them or describing them as harmless phantoms. And what do? They are busy with their own errands and move purposefully around the house as they did when they were living in that house. Further, the poet says that they enter the house through the open doors and move without noise with feet that make no sound upon the floor. We meet them in the second stanza. We get to know that where do we meet these harmless phantoms? We meet them at the doorway, one of the key answers. On the stair, the second key answer. Along the passages, third key answer. Where do we meet? We meet them at the doorway, on the stair, along the passages. They come and go. How? Not with their physical bodies. Impalpable impressions on the air. That means impressions on the air, something that cannot be felt by the sense of touch by hand, that cannot be felt. Impalpable impressions on the air. But we feel their presence. How do we feel? A sense of something moving to and fro. This is the answer. They are present anywhere in the house, at the doorway, on the stairs, along the passages. They come and go. Though they cannot be seen, their presence is felt as sense of something moving to and fro. So second stanza, the poet says that these ghosts are the impalpable impressions on the air. What do you mean by impalpable impression? That cannot be felt by touch. Something that cannot be felt by sense of touch, by hand. That is impalpable impression. But we can feel their presence. How do we feel their presence? This line, a sense of something moving to and fro. Their presence is felt as a sense of something moving to and fro. There are more guests at table than the host invited. The illuminated hall is thronged with a quiet, inoffensive ghost, as silent as the pictures on the wall. Here in this stanza, the poet paints a picture of a crowded scene in a hall. How is the hall described? Illuminated hall, brightly lit hall, where there are more ghostly guests than the living host. I repeat, the poet paints a picture of a crowded scene in this stanza. Where is that crowded scene? In a hall. What kind of a hall? Illuminated hall, brightly lit hall. Where in that hall, illuminated hall, there are more ghostly guests than the living host. The hall is thronged with a quiet, inoffensive ghost. The term thronged means filled densely, filled, occupied by a crowd. And these ghosts are described as quiet, inoffensive, emphasizing their non-threatening nature. As we have already learned in stanza 1, harmless phantoms. So the words quiet and inoffensive emphasizes their non-threatening nature. Further, the poet has described these quiet, inoffensive ghosts as silent as the pictures on the wall. They are as silent as the pictures on the wall, creating a peaceful image. So why are there more guests at the table? There are more guests because the seats are occupied. Some seats are occupied by the spirits of the previous owners of the house who had died long ago. And how do these, they are called the uninvited. See, uninvited guests. And how do these uninvited guests behave at the table? They remain silent as the pictures on the wall. The pictures hung on the wall. How are they described? Quiet and inoffensive. These ghosts are quiet and inoffensive, emphasizing their non-threatening nature. Why are they described quiet and inoffensive? They do not make any noise when they come and go, and they join the present occupants of the invited guests at the dining table. They are neither mischievous nor angry and intend no harm to the occupants of the house. That's why they are described as quiet and inoffensive ghosts. So in this stanza, there are more guests at table than the host invited. The poet presents or paints a picture of a crowded scene in a hall, brightly lit, illuminated hall, where there are more ghostly guests than the living host. And the hall is thronged with, fully filled with, filled densely with quiet and inoffensive ghosts. And how are they described further? They are as silent as the pictures on the wall. Pictures which are hung on the wall. Their presence can be perceived when they join at the dining table and make the number of guests more than those invited by the host. In fact, the brightly lit hall appears crowded by these uninvited guests. Who are the uninvited guests? The quiet, inoffensive ghost. Who remain as silent as the pictures or portraits hung on the wall. The stranger at my fireside cannot see the forms I see, nor hear the sounds I hear. He but perceive what is, while unto me all that has been is visible and clear. The speaker then goes on to say that the stranger or the guest, where were they sitting? They were sitting by the fireplace. It's already mentioned here. They were sitting. at the table, the guest at the dining table. So, the stranger at my fireside, the stranger or the guest sitting with the speaker by the fireplace, what he cannot do? He cannot see or he cannot hear. He cannot see the forms which the speaker could see. He cannot hear the sound which the speaker could hear. Unable to perceive the presence as the speaker does. Here we get to know the contrast between the poet and the stranger at the fireside. Here, Longfellow highlights a contrast between the poet and the stranger at the fireside. And the contrast is the stranger at the fireside cannot see the forms which the speaker could see, nor hear the sound which the speaker could hear. He but perceive what is. The stranger can only perceive the present. What is? What is means present. While unto me, while according to the poet, while the poet, all that has been is visible and clear. The poet can see and hear the past. All that has been. That means can see and hear the past. This reinforces the theme of unique awareness of the past. So here in this stanza, we get to know a contrast between the poet and the stranger at the fireside. The speaker says that the stranger or the guest sitting at the fireside, the fireplace, is unable to perceive the presence, unable to hear the sound which the speaker could see, speaker could hear. The speaker is the one who can see the form. Form means the impressions, the presence. The presence can be felt. Something moving to and fro, that can be felt only by the speaker. The impressions of their presence can be felt only by the speaker, and he could only hear the sounds, their sounds. He believes that the stranger can only see what is happening in the present, but the speaker can see everything clearly from the past to the present. What does it suggest? Why the stranger is unable to see the forms or hear the sound? The stranger may be the present occupant of the house. That might be the reason. What does it reinforce? Reinforce the theme? A theme of unique awareness of the past by the speaker. So, Longfellow highlights a contrast between poet and stranger in this stanza. The stranger at the fireside cannot see the forms I see, nor hear the sounds I hear. This is the contrast, these two lines. Here the speaker is referring to a stranger who, despite being present, cannot see the forms the poet sees, nor hear them. He cannot hear them. He merely perceives what is evident, what is, that is present. This tells us present. He perceives what is the present. However, to the speaker, much more is visible and clear. The poet can see and hear the past, all that has been. Here we see a poetic device in this stanza. As silent as the pictures on the wall, the figure of speech used in this extract is simile. As silent as the pictures on the wall. The comparison is made between the silence of the spirits and the pictures hung on the wall. We have no title deeds to our houses or lands. Owners and occupants of earlier dates, from graves forgotten, stretch their dusty hands and hold in mortmain still their old estates. We have no title deeds to our house or lands. Who are we referred to here? We are referred to the living human beings or the present occupants of the houses or the land. Why don't we have the title deeds to the houses or lands? Because the previous occupants of the house who handed it over to the next generation, that is the present current generation, so they are the real owners who have the title deeds to house or lands. And how do they claim their house or lands? From graves forgotten stretch their dusty hands. The owners and the occupants of the house who have died long ago stretch their hands, stretch their soiled hands, dusty hands from the forgotten graves, forgotten graves, to claim the inalienable ownership of their properties, and they visit the house, their homes, and hold in mortmain still their old estates. Mortmain, permanent ownership of land or property. So in this stanza, the speaker asserts that we, that means the living human beings or the current occupants of the house, do not have any permanent title deed to house or lands, to our permanent title deeds for our houses and lands. And what is the reason? This is because those who were the owners and occupants earlier dates, those who were the owners and occupants earlier, what do? They spread their soiled dusty hands, they stretch their dusty hands from the forgotten graves in order to claim, in order to claim the inalienable ownership of the properties once owned by them. In other words, the earlier occupants dug their way out of the graves that were unattended, that were forgotten and neglected, to return to their homes. Here we see the poetic device from forgotten, repetition of consonant sound, alliteration is used, and from graves forgotten stretch their dusty hands, the poetic device personification is also used. So in this stanza, the poet clearly mentions that we have no right over our possessions. We cannot even rightfully claim them because the departed souls or the ancestors stretch their dusty hands from the graves, holding on to the old estates, the house or the lands. They claim the inalienable ownership of the properties once owned by them. Next answer. The spirit world around this world of sense floats like an atmosphere and everywhere wafts through these earthly mist and vapor dens a vital breath of more ethereal air. So the world of spirits float around the human world of senses. The world of sense float around like an atmosphere, like the air of the atmosphere. The spirit world floats like an atmosphere and everywhere wafts pass gently through air. These earthly mist and vapor dens a vital breath of more ethereal air. The world of spirit floats around the human world of senses or the real world. Like what comparison? The poetic device simile is used. Floats like an atmosphere. Simile is used here. Like the air of an atmosphere which is enveloping the earth. The world of spirit is floating around this world of senses like the air of the atmosphere covering, enveloping the earth. This world, that is the spirit world, pass through, waft through, pass gently through air, pass through everything like the earthly mist and the dense vapors. And it is like the vital breath of delicate air from the other world. The term ethereal air refers to a more delicate and refined quality of spiritual influence. Our little lives are kept in equipoise by opposite attractions and desires. The struggle of the instinct that enjoys and the more noble instinct that aspires. In this stanza, the speaker talks about human lives. He says that human lives are short and are kept in balance. Equipoise means balance. How? By maintaining opposite attractions and desires. Further, the poet says about the two types of instincts. The base instinct that seek worldly pleasures and enjoyment. And the other instinct is the noble instinct that aspire for higher and noble goals and spiritual aids. Through this stanza, the poet tells us human beings have to learn to deal with these contradictory instincts or impulses in order to achieve balance in life. Our little lives are kept in equipoise. Whose little lives are referred to here? Human beings. In comparison to whom are they little? In comparison to the spirits, human lives are short because the spirits continue to live long after they had died and visit the houses previously owned by them. So compared to the lives of spirits, our lives, human lives, are short, little short. Since it is short, it is to be kept in balance. Then the question comes, how is balance maintained in their short lives? By maintaining opposite attractions and desires. What are the two types of instincts referred to in this extract? Base instinct and noble instinct. Let's look at an example for both the instincts. Base instincts that seek worldly pleasures like achieving name, fame, money, power, etc. Noble instinct that seek higher and noble goals such as renouncing all the worldly pleasure and seeking spiritual goals. These perturbations, this perpetual jar of earthly wants and aspirations high, come from the influence of an unseen star, an undiscovered planet in our sky. Further, the speaker describes the cause of anxiety, fears, mental disturbances, agitation in human beings. Perturbation, what does it refer to? The perturbations here, these perturbations here refer to the mental disturbances, anxieties, fears of human beings caused by the earthly needs and high aspiration. This perpetual jar of earthly wants and high aspiration. Here, the metaphor of a jar has been used for human mind in which perturbations continuously keep on struggling. And the poet says that according to the speaker, these mental disturbances, these anxieties, these fears of human beings are the result of earthly needs and high aspirations. These are not the creations of human beings, but it comes from the influence of an unseen star, shaped or influenced by some unknown forces, an unseen star from an undiscovered planet in our sky, from a remote planet in the universe. The poem reveals that confusions and conflicts pertaining to our earthly wants and high aspirations stem from unseen or unknown forces in undiscovered planets. We have often heard about or read about stars and planets guiding human destinies and shaping lives. Possibly, the poet is referring to these heavenly bodies in the sky which influence these aspects of humanity. So here the narrator referred to the undiscovered planet in the sky. Why is it referred? To give a reason why human beings are tempted to have more of earthly desires than noble or spiritual desires. So unseen star, here unseen star is a reference to the unexplored star in the universe that tempts human beings to have more earthly pleasure. And as the moon from some dark gate of cloud throws over the sea a floating bridge of light, across whose trembling planks our fancies crowd into the realm of mystery and night. In this stanza, the speaker says that as the moon comes out of the dark clouds, what does it do? Throws over the sea a floating bridge of light. Its light, moonlight, falls on the sea waves and form a floating bridge across whose trembling planks across the planks, that is the trembling planks. Here it is shaking, the bridge is shaking because the light is falling upon the sea waves. That's why floating bridge, temporary bridge, and it is shaking. Across that our fancies crowd, it travels across that trembling planks. Our imaginations travel across that trembling planks of this bridge. Into which place? Into the realm of mystery and night, into the world, into a mysterious world. We don't know, the world of a spirit, into the world where we don't know anything about that particular world. That's why it is mysterious, dark mysterious world. So the poet says that the moon comes out of the dark clouds and throws its light on the sea and forms a floating bridge of light across whose trembling planks our fancies crowd, human imagination travel across that trembling bridge, the trembling planks, the trembling bridge. Where does it go? Our imagination goes into a mysterious, dark, mysterious world. And this bridge formed by the moon connects human beings to the spirits of our loved ones who have gone long ago. So from the world of spirits, there descends a bridge of light connecting it with this, over whose unsteady floor that sways and bends, wander our thoughts above the dark abyss. So here in this stanza, we have seen that the moon has formed a floating bridge. Same like that, one more bridge is formed. So, from the world of spirit, there descend a bridge of light. Another bridge of light formed by the world of spirit. And that bridge is connecting the spirit world to our world. Connecting it with this real world, over whose unsteady floor. This bridge is also unsteady. The light which is flickering, okay, the bridge is formed, and this also an unsteady floor. That floor that sways and bends and wander our thoughts about the dark abyss. Here we see that our imaginations wander our thoughts. Our imaginations try to connect, try to go to the spirit world. Abyss mean a deep, immeasurable space or void. The poet refers to a mysterious and unknown realm that lies beneath the metaphorical bridge. So we can see that just as the moon forms a floating bridge whose trembling planks our imagination crowd travel across that floating bridge into the realm of mystery and night. Similarly, just as the moonlight falls on the waves of the sea, there appears a light, a bridge is formed. Similarly, humans forge a connection with the spirit world through another floating bridge, through our imaginations, our thoughts, our imagination we connect to this mysterious night world and reunite with our loved ones who are no more. So, wander our thoughts about the dark abyss. The memories of our loved ones keep us connected to them long after they are gone. These memories keep the living from falling into the deep sorrow that is like dark abyss. The memories of our loved ones, dear departed ones, these memories keep the living, keep us from falling into the deep sorrow that is the dark abyss. So the last stanza, finally, the poet has compared the ethereal image of moonlight, which is floating across the ocean waves, with the bridge of light that descends from the world of spirit to earth. The unsteady floor of the bridge can be crossed only by these immortal beings and not the human beings. That's the difference. So bridge is already made. So here in this stanza we have seen that the moonlight has made a floating bridge. Our fancies, our imagination try to travel across into the realm of mystery and night. Only our thoughts can go. Since so long as we are alive, we are not able to go to another world. Similarly, the spirit world also, from there another bridge is formed, a light which forms a bridge. There descends a bridge of light connecting it with this over the unsteady floor, over whose unsteady floor, that floor is swaying and bending. Our thoughts can go. The thoughts and memories about our dear departed ones that will help us falling into the deep sorrow. The memories will comfort us, which cares us, which comfort us. These memories of the dear departed ones will keep us from falling into the deep sorrow. That is the reason the spirits are coming from the world of spirit to assure us, to comfort us, not to harm us. Here we see Longfellow has changed the conventional image of phantoms or spirits. Unlike the usual image of the phantoms or the spirits, these souls or the spirits of the dear departed ones are harmless. That's why the poet used the term harmless phantoms. So why they are harmless? They are our dear departed ones. They never trouble us. They will protect us. They will help us to falling into the deep. They will never keep the living from falling into the deep sorrow like the abyss, the mysterious unknown realm that lies beneath the metaphorical bridge. Longfellow extends the moon's metaphor, describing a bridge connecting the spirit world with the earthly realm. The unsteady floor adds an element of instability. Wander our thoughts above the dark abyss implies a journey to the mysterious and unknown. So here we as human beings, as long as we are alive, we are not able to travel to that world. Instead, they come. The spirits come not to harm us, to comfort us, just to protect us, not to harm us. Thus the poem ends on a positive note. As we have seen that the speaker can hear the forms wherein the stranger cannot. The speaker can hear, the forms I see, the sounds I hear, wherein the stranger cannot. Why? It is the soul of the speaker's dear departed one. That's why he is able to connect from the past to the present. That's why he is able to hear. The spirits come and go. They are the uninvited guests. They will be here. The last answer, the world of spirit there descends. We are not able to go to that world. But they come. Without physical bodies, they come not to harm us. That's why they are quiet, they are inoffensive, as silent as the pictures on the wall. They are harmless. Thus, the poem ends on a positive note. It talks about the bridge of connecting the human and the spirit world. Spirits descend and pass through the light, thus reaching us so we do not feel sad and miss them. Memories, our fancies, only our imaginations can cross this. As long as we are alive, we cannot go to that world. Only our memories. Memories about our dear departed ones. These harmless phantoms, these harmless, impalpable, inoffensive ghosts are the spirits of our loved ones who still live in our hearts, our memories. And that's why in our houses, they come and go, they visit our houses. So we are glad to have them with us in whatever form. Thus, we can say that the title is also quite appropriate with this reference. They visit. That's why it is haunted. Not in a negative way, in a positive way. The poem ends up. As I told that haunted house we mean in a negative way. But the poet tries to convey the message that they are not troublesome. They don't disturb us. They don't throw things around. So here he tries to break the conventional images of the spirits. The reason is these spirits are the spirits, the soul of our dear departed ones. Let's look at the poetic devices. Before that, let's see the rhyme scheme. The poem follows a regular rhythm and unvarying A-B rhyme scheme. This is the rhyme scheme. Poetic devices, metaphor, implied comparison between person and object. Example, this perpetual jar of earthly want and aspirations high, and as the moon from some dark gate of cloud throws over the sea a floating bridge of light. Two examples for metaphor. Simile, again two examples for simile. As silent as pictures on the wall, floats like an atmosphere. Both are comparison, how to differentiate a simile and metaphor. Simile, comparison using the words as or like. Here it is implied comparison. So two examples for simile is given here. Personification. Human qualities are attributed to both inanimate and abstract ideas. Here we get 4 examples. From graves forgotten stretch their dusty hands. This perpetual jar of earthly wants and aspirations high. And as the moon from some dark gate of cloud. And the last one, wander our thoughts above the dark abyss. Then alliteration. 4 examples are given here. Alliteration is the repetition of consonant sounds. Here in this example, her sound is repeated. Haunted houses. From, forgotten. First sound is repeated. Sense of something moving to and fro. Sir sound. And the last one, little lives. L sound is repeated. Symbolism. The bridge of light serves as a symbolic representation of the connection between the spirit world and the earthly realm. It symbolizes a pathway for thoughts to traverse the mysteries between the seen and the unseen. An allusion. The reference to an unseen star and an undiscovered planet can be seen as an allusion to the cosmic forces influencing human existence, adding depth to the celestial imagery in the poem. Thank you, children.